Welcome to PodTox Ep.5. We have Amber here. She is Recovery is Fire on TikTok, and she's doing some amazing things that we're going to talk about. We're going to hear a little bit about her story, and then we have Marie down here. She is my co-host. And let's go ahead and get into it. So real quick, just to start things off, let's hear about your like childhood and growing up, just to get a little backstory.
All right, guys. So I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I have four brothers. I have one stepbrother and then three younger brothers. My stepbrother is older than me. My biological parents are alcoholics and addicts. My mom got sober. My bio dad did not, but she married really great guys. So I grew up in a kind of normal household, other than we were Jehovah's Witnesses for a while. That wasn't fun. But yeah, I was always attracted to that fast life, and I've always felt less than. I've always come from a place of I'm not good enough. So, and the one thing I was good at was, getting drunk, getting wasted. I fit in very well with those people. I was very good at it. So just to make a long story short, the main thing I want to show people about my childhood and my background is that no matter where you come from, you don't have to be that for the rest of your life. And just to make it kind of relatable is, no matter where I was at, no matter who I was with, I always felt less and different. And like I told you about being Jehovah's Witness, I think we were Jehovah's Witnesses from the time I was 7 to about 12. And what I can tell you about that is that really kicked off my addiction, because I didn't do the Pledge of Allegiance. When people would have like holiday parties, like, for Halloween and Valentine's and things of that nature, I sat in the gymnasium. And they would come out, we got Sprite and cookies, and they'd rub it in my face. And I was just weird. I was just different. I was ostracized pretty much. That really was not a good feeling. And it really made me want to rebel, be different. And then when I was given an opportunity, like anybody that knows my story, I started out huffing glue. It didn't start out with, hey, here's some crack. I didn't wake up one day and decide to ruin my life. It's a process. And that's what I want people to take away from this, especially with the is it disease versus choice thing. I love letting people decide for themselves, but I want to give them a little info. Like I didn't wake up one day like, man, there ain't nothing to do. Let's go do some heroin. It didn't start out like that, man. It started out as a fun. And somebody's just said this to me and I was like, I'm stealing it. They said, I was deciding to have a moment, not a lifetime. I was deciding to have a good moment. I wanted to party for this moment. I didn't know that was actually a lifetime decision.
Yeah.
I'm sober and I'm still having to recuperate from that decision. So
do you find yourself still thinking like that sometimes, where you look for that instant gratification over the long term?
Absolutely. I'm an addict. Monkeys think about bananas and addicts think about dope.
I remember that video where you were talking about walking past like a big pile of metal and your brain was like, da ding, da ding, da ding. But then you're like, nope, I'm in recovery, right?
Still looks sexy though.
Yeah, I know. But it's like one of those things that it still happens like in recovery, right?
Yeah, so I do Alcoholics Anonymous. That's my pathway. And we have a saying in there, you can't turn a pickle back into a cucumber.
You're right.
I believe that to be so. It talks about it in the big book too. We are like men who have lost their legs. We do not grow new ones. That's how my disease looks. I'm not saying that everybody with this, problem thinks that way, or that they see things like that. But for me, that works for me. I believe in like that. For me, it is like that.
So I did the AA and NA stuff for a while, and I felt like I ended up in it because whenever I went to rehab, that was kind of the big thing. That's what they preached to everybody. Is that the same thing that happened to you, or what got you started in that?
Honestly, I was a huge big book thumper because my mom, I grew up in AA. And this was the time when AA was black and white. You were either all the way in or you're all the way out. There was Matt was a thing, but it wasn't like it is now. And honestly, a lot of old timers and things like that, in my experience, and you guys have to remember, I'm from Ohio. That's where AA originated. Okay. So we are very all or nothing, old school, and not so much anymore. But originally when I was 15, that was my first AA meeting. And I grew up thinking like that. And it took me a very long progression to come to realize that doesn't work for everybody. And it really did. I used to think like that. That's why I tell these people, I'm like, I understand, homie, I really do, but there's got to be more than this or that. Life isn't like that. Not everybody's situation calls for that.
Did you have like an aha moment that made you start to realize that like maybe medicated assisted treatment isn't so bad, or because you were raised differently?
Yeah, I did. So I was in Maryhaven. It's everybody in Columbus knows what Maryhaven is. It's kind of like free. It's like not city treatment, but
Like
like
a state
county.
treatment center.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you have nowhere else to go, right? So
absolutely.
I'm in there and I'm like, I'm not doing Suboxone. And my counselor is like, why are you so against it? And I'm like, because it's not fucking sober. And my counselor was like, oh, well, you're one of those. Okay. He drew a box. He was like, so this is you. He was like, you are putting yourself here. And he was like, and you're going to fucking die there.
Wow.
And he popped it out like that. He was like, look, he's like, you're either all the way in or you're all the way out. He said, but what if I told you there was a bridge in this middle area? And he literally drew me like little images and shit. And that was the first time my mind opened a crack. But it wasn't until I became peer support that I was like, damn, these people out here really doing it. And they don't even fuck with AA. Like, it really opened my mind. I was like, I have been fed some bullshit. But anyways, that doesn't mean it doesn't work for me.
Absolutely.
I still wholeheartedly love the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I do it all the time. I do it every day. It's what I practice. But I am never closed off to something new. Never. And that's what changed for me.
What have you noticed change just in meetings in general? Like, how has the progression gone during your meetings whenever it comes to being more accepting?
That's amazing. That has been such a blessing too, like watching people come in there. And people used to go in there and they would just be like, well, out of respect for Alcoholics Anonymous, my name is, even let's say they never drank a drop in their life. They love meth. They'll be like, my name is so-and-so and I'm an alcoholic, just for respect. But now people just say like, there's no identifying so much what drug you do. It's more like the disease. And I really like that about it. And I don't know not one person that I mess with in AA that doesn't do a little bit of something, everything. Like, yeah, sure, drinking was, my favorite, but I'll do a little meth here and there. Or, sure, pills was my favorite, but I like a 40 every once in a while. There was,
Yeah.
it's so blurred. It's all about really the disease now, which is kind of like how NA's always been. And so I don't want to say it's convoluted. It's more accepting. And I like that. I like that they have, as recovery has evolved, so has the rooms.
Has drinking always been your big thing? Obviously, you've done other things, but has drinking always been like that number one go-to that you felt like if you can stop that, then you can kind of keep yourself under control? And is that why you went to AA over NA, or just because your mom had kind of took you in there all the time?
Actually, quite the contrary. I tried to do NA because everybody knew my business. Literally, I'd walk in, they'd be like, Amber, I'm so glad you're okay. My mom told me you OD'd at McDonald's yesterday. Are you all right? Or like, what kind of bird don't fly when I got out of jail? Everybody knew everything about me because my mom would go in there and tell them everything. So I was like, I want to go where nobody knows me. So I tried NA before and it wasn't like my vibe. Like I didn't think it'd be that much different. And it was like the way they operate their meetings, the way their literature is fucking fire. Like I love their fire, but I just didn't meet my people there. I ended up going back to my roots, back to AA, where I just realized like, they know all my business. They know I belong here. I earned my fucking seat. And that's just kind of how I got, because that's where my people were.
Whenever you started going to AA, you went whenever all the old timers were there and everything like that. So, and that's how I was. And I got to the point where I started like leading those meetings and everything. Did you get some younger people in there, and how did you do it? Did you just have people showing up all the time? Because I had to actively search for the younger generation to actually come to AA.
See, it's not like that here. It's such a mix. It's such a mix. Now, there's certain spots of the meeting where the old timers and the youngins will sit. The old timers are usually like, they have their spot and like nobody sits there. You're like, no, so-and-so sits there, get up. And it's kind of like that.
It's like a respect thing.
Yeah. So it's like, but we're all there, young, old, And actually in Ohio, we have this thing called OE Pod, which is like Ohio young people again. Like it's super cool. I don't know if you guys have that, but yeah, we have HA and we have CA and so even if you don't find your niche or your group in A or NA, you know, there's all different. There's Cocaine Anonymous, there's Heroin Anonymous, you know, there's so and I don't know about you guys, and this may sound a little biased, but I don't know a lot of old heroin addicts. So most of them are very young. Most heroin addicts don't make it to live old. They either get clean or they pass away. So most of the people there are very young. I've seen people as young as 21 come in and get this.
I love that.
Yeah, it's very diverse here, honestly.
Since you've been such a big part of this for so long and everything, do you like you did a speaking engagement just yesterday and stuff like that? Do you kind of put that information out there whenever you do these speaking engagements? Like these are all the different events you can go for your thing. So you can try AA, you can try NA. We have like a just recovery club that we can go to. Because I remember seeing your friend had like an event where it's just everybody in recovery went to like a little street fair. And that was cool.
So that was, I actually didn't speak there. So I used to work for a company that was there, and my best friend, that's her event. So my best friend, she's real big in recovery here in Columbus. And it's basically a gigantic fair of recovery resources.
Well,
It's huge. And yeah, and you guys seen that I worked it out where her boyfriend could, well, now it's her fiance, got to propose to her. And so the thing is, though, I don't want to get it twisted because I was in AA. So there's people that are around the rooms, and then there's people that are actually in AA. So I was one for a very long time. I was one of those people that hung out and didn't do the work. I thought, you know, if I walked in there and had like 5 or 6 friends, my friends were going to carry me through. I was going to get this by osmosis. That's so not true. You have to do the work. I think Marie and I just had this conversation yesterday. There is no part in recovery in which you get to skip the work.
absolutely.
At all. I have yet to find it, and I have done my damnedest to find it. So if you find it, cool, let me know, because I'm tired of doing some of this work. Like,
Yeah, it's a continuous thing. You have to continuously put in the hard work and effort, or else you're not going to keep piling up time. It's not going to happen.
you don't get to skip humility either, and I found that out the hard way.
We learned a lot of lessons in our recovery. That is part of it. So kind of backtracking just a little bit. So you grew up being a Jehovah's Witness and obviously being ostracized. How long did that last? Like I know obviously you're gonna find your friend groups once you start using and stuff like that, but even in those friend groups, when you were using, did you feel like you were still kind of an outsider sometimes, or did you feel like that was your family now?
I was still different
Yeah.
because I took it too far. I always took it too far. Nobody else was licking the mirrors after we did lines. Nobody else was blacking out, trying to sleep with everybody and fight and waking up in handcuffs. That was all me. I was always different. And not to sound like, oh, I'm different and unique, because there's a lot of people like me. But I mean, in that group, I took everything too far. People were like, we don't want to drink with you. We don't want to fight with you. We don't want to carry you home. We don't want you peeing on our couch. We don't want you doing this. We don't want to drink with you.
You became no fun for them anymore. That's what happened.
Did that lead you into a darker place? Because everybody with addiction issues, I feel like, has some form of anxiety and depression and all of that stuff. But did it noticeably worsen as time went on and you kept feeling like you were alone and the odd man out?
Yeah, so what I didn't know then that I do know now is I was seeking all kinds of validation, all kinds of attention, all kinds of red flags and cries for help that I didn't know at that time was actually borderline and alcoholism and addiction, right? I didn't know that. I didn't know that I thought everybody was my best friend in 3 days because I have borderline personality disorder. I didn't know I was constantly clinging to people, or I constantly felt like a people pleaser because people were going to leave me. I didn't know all that. I didn't know any of it. But now that I know better, I can look back on it and be like, oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, man. And it's helpful, but like the attention seeking, it's not a one and done. It's a, oh, I haven't felt this way in a month, and then something comes up, and you're like, oh my God, and you feel like you didn't do any work at all, and then you're right back where you started. And I really try to let people know that that's how it is. It's not linear with healing. It's not, all right, we're done. It's always, okay, we're going back. Oh shit, now we're this way. Now, and that's the fun and the journey, but it's also, people need to, I really think people need to talk more about that instead of just, oh, I'm so grateful. Life is so fucking awesome. Because it is, but let's keep it all the way gutter. Let's all be all the way real, because people need to know about that stuff too.
When you got sober, is that when you started to realize, like, I am a little different from people, and started to get like psych diagnoses? Or did you struggle throughout your teens with, like, when you're looking back now? Because I know that for a long time, it was hard to separate the drugs from like the true mental illness. Does that make any sense? Like, they were merging and I looked like a hot mess.
I blamed all the fucked up behavior on the drinking and the drugging, but once that was gone, I was like, oh, this is me. This is me. Yeah, and I actually was a horrible cutter, very suicidal, and ended up getting, the last time, this was actually, I just celebrated 4 years on this, the last time I was put into a mental hospital, they're the ones that diagnosed me borderline. I had been taking all kinds of crazy medications, antipsychotics, and I was misdiagnosed as bipolar.
See, that's what I was talking about, because they can't pull out the drugs from the actual illness. Like, they merge.
Kyle, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I was actually commenting about, so I had a very vulnerable video, and there was a man on there, and he was like, yeah, men feel this way too. And he told me, and I took a suggestion. He said, ask Kyle, what's it like from a male perspective of not being good enough? I know female. Do you ever feel like that, first of all? What's it like? What's it look like from that perspective? Because I know it don't look like I'm not pretty enough. Yeah.
It's not so much about looks. It's more about the fact, like, it kind of depends if you have a family or not. Because if you don't have a family and you hit that position, because I had a point where I had the kids, but I didn't have them all the time. And whenever I was at that point in my life, I would self-isolate a lot, just because I was almost afraid that I wasn't good enough to be with someone, or even I wouldn't fight for my kids as hard, just because I wouldn't think I was good enough for them. But having my family, whenever I ended up in that position, it was kind of one of those things where that would lead the depression. Like, every second of every day, that would be why I was down and depressed, and it started creating irritability and stuff, just because I didn't think I could do anything right for my family. So it puts like just a lot of stress and just shuts you down. But yeah, it's a very hard thing to cope with if you don't have any tools to like know how to cope with it. So yeah, it's something that I had to learn myself, especially when I was getting off of subs. While I was on subs, I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And then as I grew, it helped me come out of my shell and kind of try things, just to, I guess, experiment to see what would make me happy and what would make my family happy and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a journey. I feel like men and women are definitely different on that end.
Yeah.
We are different. Like, just certain things, like, you've learned about me that I care about, like doing the podcast. Like, I care more about like aesthetic stuff, where Kyle's like, and I'm like, no, but we got to do it this way, because that's the way my brain thinks, right? Like, we're different. That's why we make a good team, though, because two different personalities.
Yeah, she opens my mind up to stuff that I wouldn't even come close to thinking about, just because
And the same.
Yeah.
I like that. Yin and yang. I love it. That's what we need. It's cool to see your perspective too, because me and Marie definitely talked about this like in private, but like, yeah, so I know like the stress on women is to like get you a good man or get you a good spouse that makes money, and you're going to get that by being the prettiest and the best cook. And you know, there's like all these stereotypes that trickle down onto women, but there's also that with men and women. I don't think we think about that sometimes. You guys have got to be strong, the provider, the protector, and like that could be a struggle too. And I never think about that. And I'm sorry, I should more. And it's nice to get a perspective on it.
It's still something ingrained in me and a lot of people I talk to, because usually the struggle whenever someone's trying to get off of whatever they're on, the number one thing everyone says is, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. And whenever it's a woman approaching me, it's usually like I'm usually afraid that my husband is going to find out. And that's what they care about the most. And it's kind of a strange dynamic, and I'm not sure why that's the focus, because for whether it's man or woman, the focus should just be what you need to do and focusing on yourself and figuring the rest out while you do that. So yeah, it's weird.
But you know what's crazy is if those two, like let's say we have a man, let's say there was a husband and wife, and they're both secretly using, they both secretly want to get clean. If they had that open line of communication, like, baby, I don't feel like I'm going to be able to provide for you. And if I'm on subs, I can't do that, you know. And she's like, I really don't want you to find out and leave me for somebody who's, you know, not as jacked up as me, or is it, you know, I'm sure but if we were just open.
Communication is key in everything.
Nobody's perfect. Let's just all be honest and open. Like, I really love that. Like, I love that about Kyle. You were very open and transparent, and I appreciate that. Like, I know Maria is, and that's what I want people to take away when they see recovery, because it's not blowjobs and rainbows. It's life. Like,
it's true.
Yes.
How have you handled certain situations being in recovery? Like, for instance, I know your daughter has a diagnosis, and I know that having a child with a diagnosis can be very tough, especially as a mother. And I want to know, how did you handle hearing that news? How did you process it? And how do you continue to move on?
I'm sorry, I get emotional about her. I found out when I was 6 months pregnant, and this was like, damn, this is the one pregnancy I didn't use drugs. This was the one time that I did everything right. I'm like, wow. And it's 1 in 3,000 births. She has arthrogryposis. It's a very rare disease. Like I said, it's like 1 in 3,000 births. And I'm just like, I just had to take it one day at a time, and I had to really lean on a lot of the women in my life. I have a bomb ass sponsor, and she was like, we gonna get through this. And when she said that, because I was so used to, I'm gonna get through this. It's me, myself, and I. When she said, baby, we gonna get through this, I felt, I felt this like warmth come over me, and she did. She threw my baby shower. She was there. Love her. And then also I had time to process it, and she had a whole group of doctors that were waiting for her to come out. And there's been ups and downs. I had a doctor tell me she's never gonna walk, and I took her and bought shoes because she didn't have to wear them ugly boots anymore. And it's been like recovery. There's days where I wouldn't fucking change it for the world. Then there's days where I just like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
But I do it.
I give you a lot of credit. I do. I know that it's got to be hard, but the fact that you're in recovery and you're utilizing the tools that you learned in your journey to help you with your parenting is amazing. That is a blessing. That's recovery.
And you know what? Honestly, I use a lot of the tools, and they can be utilized throughout life. It ain't all about recovery.
The same tools.
Yeah. What I learned in AA, find somebody who's doing what you want and copy them. That's pretty much what a sponsor is. And I do the same thing. I ask a lot of questions. I read a lot. I do the work. I call people. I have people that are sponsoring me, and they don't even know they're sponsoring me, because I'll call them like, hey, when you got that chair from that insurance company, what was the process? You know what I mean? Whatever it may be. Using what I know.
You continue to advocate, you continue to fight, you continue to search, you continue to just be the best mom that you could be.
How do you cope with all of this? I mean, obviously you've got a lot on your plate with her, and you're just you do a lot in general. Um, I know you garden and stuff like that. What are your like hobbies? How do you escape? How do you live life normally and still have fun and actually get out there without having to use?
I'm so glad you brought that up. So look, I know I can't be alone on this because me and my friends have talked about this, and me and Marie have talked about this. And Kyle, you tell me if you can relate. I thought when I got sober, life is over, fun is dead. Might as well jump out of a plane and die because life is just going to be such a drab, boring thing now.
Yep.
So let me tell you, I remember getting wasted and being around with like my fair weather friends, and we should go to Kings Island, we should go to Cedar Point, we should go see that concert, we should go to, I want to go try that new restaurant. And guess what? All we did was talk. We never did it. We never had money. We couldn't stay sober. And now I have the money. Now I have the gumption. I have a car. I have all the things it takes to do all the things I always wanted to do and never could. And I had somebody tell me to make a list of things I'd love to do or learn or whatever. I think I have a TikTok about this, and I've done everything on that list other than play guitar. And that's because I don't have time. Maybe I will someday. I love music. I would love to play guitar, play some Pink Floyd. But yeah, it's quite the opposite. I have traveled. I have a passport. What?
Wow, girl.
I know. I have been to so many concerts, and that is another thing. We were talking about this too. The first concert I ever went to, this is for my country music fans, I seen Jamie Johnson, and everybody's getting wasted, passing weed, drinking. And I called my sponsor. I went over to the porta potties so I could hear it. I was like, girl, I want to smoke some weed. I want to drink, man. I want to have fun. I want to do it. I want to be normal. Why can't I be normal? I got resentful. And I can tell you that now, this is one of maybe like 2017 when this was happening. And now I actually see that these sober people actually travel and go to every like music festival and concerts, and like they have like a tent and like a safe space for people like us. We're not the only ones there that are just having a good time completely sober. And I dance more sober. I am in the moment more sober, and I remember everything.
Is there like a group like this at every concert that you've seen, or?
Here. And that's another thing too, is like us, I don't know about everybody in recovery, but us AAs, we stick together. Like if we're going to do something, we're doing it as a group. Like, okay, you found, and that's what we do. That's one of the tools we learn too, is like, I found, for instance, let's say I found a bag of dope. Oh, I didn't know I had this bag of dope. I was cleaning my closet, and voila, there it is. 3 of them will show at your house and, flush it for you.
Yep.
And so why would we not go to a concert with you? Why would we not? You got to find your people. That's connection.
When people feel disconnected from life, from family, from friends, from the world, they want to self-medicate. I know I used to feel so disconnected. And what do you do when you feel disconnected? You do the opposite. You start to isolate.
So doing all of these, everything on your list, was making your book, writing your book, one of the things on that list, or was that like a separate venture that you took?
First thing on my list was to finish treatment, because I didn't finish it. I was like, oh, this isn't fun anymore. Let's quit. So I used to say I never finished anything but jail sentence and a bag of dope. So that was my first goal. And I did it, pregnant, everything, did it. And during COVID, did it. And yeah, the book, I wasn't, so I had a therapist, and she was like, I need you to be more grateful. I need you to get in, there's 5-minute gratitude books. I get it. And it's like very surfacey, and I just can't, I can relate, but I can't. I'm like, people I can relate to are like, man, I'm grateful I got my Hep C cured. Man, I'm grateful I got my license back. Man, I'm grateful I got an extra 30-minute at my CPS visit with my children this week. That's the shit we were grateful for. And nobody really was like relating to that. And I was like, I'm gonna fix this. So that's the kind of, And so the thing about this book too is there's things in there for people with high bottoms, low bottoms, long-term recovery, short-term recovery. It is geared towards the 12 steps, so I will say that. There are maybe like 3 or 4 questions that are kind of like geared towards the steps, but other than that, it's pretty much like, here's the question, okay? Write about something positive that happened in your life that you would have never seen coming, and how did you show gratitude for it? Like, it's stuff like that.
So it's a lot of stuff that can keep you busy and growing at the same time and exploring yourself, and that's cool. I like that a lot.
Everybody, and it's something to keep you grateful for things as little as toiletries to
Exactly.
things as large as higher power. I remember not having deodorant a few times, not having water to drink, not, you know.
In your younger years and everything, did you end up homeless for a time?
No, my dad has always done pretty well.
That was something that I struggled with because I was fortunately only homeless for a short amount of time. But whenever it happened, like, just, I still can't explain it to this day. Just that fear you feel the second you realize that you have nowhere to go. And like, you can pack a backpack or a bag or something and start walking, but you can only take so much. It's a scary ass feeling.
Yeah, it is.
But
Yeah.
well, yeah, Marie, you understand completely too.
But it's like, when you feel like the world's going on and you're not participating in the world anymore, that is the most degrading feeling in the world. I can remember standing there, and sometimes even now, if I drive past someone homeless, I put myself right back in their body, feeling like there's the world going on. Here I am in my brand new car, but that's because I worked hard for it. But here's this person where I used to be. And it's like, I want to just grab them and be like, you could do it. Like, you could do this. You could do it. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. That's the problem.
Your parents were obviously very supportive, at least in your recovery, at least now and everything. Um, did you ever have a time where it wasn't like that, where they completely just pushed you away, or were they always there?
No. So my mom, my mom was old school AA, like I told you. Um, she completely was like, I'm done enabling you. I remember this is very, I don't mean this to sound vulgar, but this is the last time I talked to my dad until I got sober. I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm either going to turn a trick or you're going to give me $20. I said, you decide. I said, but I'm done talking to you. And I was like FaceTiming her crying. And I was manipulating the hell out of her, but it wasn't a lie. And I remember my dad driving over because I lived down the street. And he's like, this is the last $20. I don't want to talk to you. And he met that shit. And I didn't talk to them again until the day I got sober. Because they had my kids and I wasn't allowed around my kids. So they still have my kids. I have that worked out when I have 5 years sober. So we're working them back into my house. I've lost them numerous times and I don't want to ever put them through that again.
And I respect you for that. And I told you that because for you, you're doing it's a lot of trauma on them, but kids are resilient. They bounce back quicker than you think. But you're slowly integrating them. It's not like, oh, I want you back. And you're trying to do it in a way that's less traumatizing for them, which I commend you for. I know it's hard.
It is hard, and there's times where I feel like telling my parents to like kiss my ass, give me my kids. Don't you know who I am? Don't you know how much time I got? But then I got to think about it. I've said all this before. This isn't about my pride, my ego, what I should have. This is about these children deserve to have a healthy, stable life, healthy, stable mom. And if I still see them every day. They go to school down the street from my house. I take them to school some days. I have everyday interactions with them, but they will not live here.
Did your parents bring up that idea, or was it something, and if they did, was it something that you were like fighting at first?
No, they brought it up and I was in agreement. Now, I'm not going to lie and tell you that when I first got 3 years sober that I didn't think about, screw that. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I bought a house, I'm married, I'm settled down, I have Maggie every day. But then I had to get real with myself, like, and question my motives. Do I want them back so that I can just be on Facebook and be like, look, my life is so together? Or do I want them back because I genuinely have the time, patience, love, and capacity right now to be the best freaking mom I can be to them? And when I really took a look at that, my motives weren't clean. And I pray about it, and it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. But I know it'll happen at least by 5 years, which is like a year and 3 months from now. Like, that's nothing to me. So, and I know this time things will be the way it's supposed to be. And I have had time to build bonds with my children, and I wouldn't have done that. And I would have got overwhelmed. And that's usually what happens. That's my cycle.
Are you a self-sabotager?
Yes, yes, because I'm scared to win and I'm scared to lose.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yes.
Especially early on, whenever all of this happened, did you keep sliding back to a place where it's like, I've noticed that even though some people are sober, they may not be using anything, but they're still going out and, stealing or talking trash to people and doing all this not really sober activities. Did you have that struggle in the beginning where you were kind of leaning towards some of that, or did you just kind of decide like I need to do this, so I'm going to practice it wholeheartedly?
I didn't do such actively crazy behavior like stealing and things, or like I've worked with a lot of people that can't seem to let their lifestyle go. The quick money, the selling drugs, selling their food stamps, selling themselves. Like, it doesn't matter. It's very hard to let go of that lifestyle. And this is another thing that I talked about too. This was a factor for me and why I couldn't let go instantaneously. I want that quick fix. I come in, I see people, they have their shit together. Here I sit, don't have my shit together. But why should I? have like a month sober, right? But this is how I felt. I walk in, I see people, I immediately start having shame and guilt. And I'm like, okay, I gotta get a job, gotta get a car, gotta get my kids, gotta get a man, gotta get my life together, because that's what's important. I never sat down with myself and was like, because I would do that. I would get the job, the car, the man, the kids, and then I would blow it.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a really long time to just be like, sit down, be humble. Like Kendrick Lamar said, like I had to sit down and be humble. And like, it was hard. And I just kept using it. I couldn't figure it out until I took a look at it. And yeah, but my old behaviors were not so much stealing and things. It was more like gossiping, talking shit, judging people, ugly stuff that nobody wants to admit, the shit that we all pretend like we don't do.
Everyone does it. I mean, it's part of normal human interaction and everything, but when that is the sole focus of somebody, I mean, it's hard to look at that person and say you're really working on your recovery. Because at that point, if you're just doing nothing but gossiping and causing as many problems as you may be solving, you're gonna end up sliding into depression, anxiety. Something's gonna go wrong, and you won't know how to handle it, and then you're right back into using. So yeah, I've noticed that here and there, and I don't know how to address it with people, I guess.
Who they hang out with. You are who you hang with. I've learned that a long time ago. Stick with the winners. That's what they always say. I didn't know what a winner looked like, so it took me a while to find them. You know what I mean? I didn't know what winning looked like. Winning to me was having 2 cars in the driveway and a drug problem I could afford. Like that was winning. But I honestly, if I am around certain people for a while, I'll pick up on their behaviors. And that's something I don't like. And that's something I don't like to admit either. I like to think I'm a free thinker and everything, but you can't help it. When in Rome, if you're constantly with people that gossip and are negative, next thing you know, I'm being negative and gossiping. So I really, really try not to stick with those types of people, and you'll know who they are. They ain't ever got nothing good to say. So that's really what I try to do, and just call myself on my own shit. And I have people that call me on it, no problem.
I love when people call me out on my shit. That is something like my therapist. I love a therapist relationship where they're like, no, 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 no. You don't know it all. And they call you out, because you know what? Sometimes we do think we know it all. I think sometimes I know it all. And then I'm like, I get checked real quick. And I love when I get checked though, because when I get checked, I put in the work necessary to try to fix those things. And that's what recovery is about.
Yeah, but I won't do that to for instance, I am not just randomly going to go around saying hurtful and mean things about people just because I feel they need to hear it. I have to really be involved with you, and you
Yeah.
have to invite me to do that. But once you do, I will for sure do it for you because some people need to hear it. But in the same token, that doesn't mean I'm here to judge you. That means, I just want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And I really don't, I really, really have strived to not judge people because I did that for so long.
Do you sponsor people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a sponsee right now that's doing fucking amazing.
That's awesome.
It's my favorite.
Isn't that a rewarding feeling?
Dude, I've had so many God moments with this girl and I've cried and it's good shit. Like, it's good shit. And not just that, but it keeps you on your toes. You can't tell somebody to pray every day, or you can't tell somebody to be kind, or, if you're not.
When you started your TikTok platform and all your, any online stuff you have, what was your goal? I know you started it just to like share your experience and give people a little bit of, kind of like your book, give people a reason to be grateful. But what do you want to accomplish with all that?
So initially I did it to connect. So I used to work in the recovery field as peer support, and I lived in Columbus, which is, the capital. It's a big city, and I wanted to be closer to my children who live out in the boonies in Fredericktown, which is northern Ohio. So, but once I moved out here, I was like, oh my God, it's an hour drive just to go see my friends. And it's just like, I just wanted to connect. And also, I wanted to get my book out there. I wanted to, I don't know, it was a multitude of things. I mostly though wanted to connect with people and see people. And, there was this girl I was following on Facebook, and she would make funny recovery stuff. And I mean, like, funny, like, ooh, did she really go there? She did, like raunchy stuff. And I was like, she's got some balls. She really does. I was like, I could do that. Or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, we need more people like that. She's just really raw and vulnerable, and I love that. So it was just a mixture of a lot of things. And now I've got so much support and like love and kindness from you guys that I'm not going back. We're not going back.
But you know what? It is true. The connection with people makes, and it checks us sometimes, like by you helping and offering information that helps others, you're learning at the same time, you're growing, you're continuing to check, like that video you made the other day about the autopsy, the recovery autopsy, like picking apart your journey. Stuff like that is things that we need to continue to do along our journey, I feel like.
Oh yeah, it doesn't stop. Like, this disease wants you, if you're breathing, it's trying to get you. Okay, you don't get to just rest on your laurels. Unfortunately, I wish it worked that way. It doesn't for me. Let me not speak about everybody, but it doesn't for me. I don't have that privilege. I really wish, but for me, it doesn't. It's constantly working. I do everything like addictively. Everything. I can't do anything. Like, I just like about that face thing. Yeah, I posted a TikTok about that. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh, 10 minutes, I'm gonna do it for an hour.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm the same way. I overdo things or like excessively cleaning, or everything has to be on a certain number, or I'm very ritualistic about everything in my life is structure and ritual.
Yes.
I'm a lunatic, but guess what? I'd rather be the way I am now than the freaking way I used to be, for sure.
Oh, yes. But see, that's the thing. You have to just show some respect for what's going on inside you. The moment that you start slacking on that respect, the moment's gonna come kick your ass. At least that's how it's been for me. And I've got my ass whooped many a times by addiction. I'm like, all right, you the champion, undefeated. Let me just go about my business and just do what I need to do.
We know when someone's starting to go down like the wrong path. Like you see it like a movie almost, right?
Yes.
And it's scary because sometimes you just want to grab that person, but you can't do that. We all live, we learn, we grow, we make mistakes. We're human. But at the end of the day, we need to just get back up every time and fight.
I had this lady, I think I told you about this. I'm not going to say any names, but in one of my videos, she was like, I think you're on amphetamine.
Yep.
You're just too hyper. You just have weird movements. And it's a makeup video. So, I'm like patting my makeup in and I was going a little fast, but long story short, my mom was like, oh, she just don't know. She's like, you would not be on TikTok. She'd be like, you'd be out west somewhere, not even have your phone because you sold it.
You wouldn't even have had makeup. You wouldn't have had a makeup brush. Like, come on. When you get in recovery, you have to start. Oh, I mean, I know I had to start over with the weirdest shit. Like, I didn't even have underwear. Like, there you go. Like, straight up. That's like the worst, like, how degrading. And you learn quick to be like, you know what? I don't ever want to feel like this again. So you continue to fight and you continue to give it your all because you don't want to go backwards and ever be there again, but you can get there quick.
I don't even get on here sometimes when I have a lot to do with my kids, let alone be full-fledged on my favorite drugs, which is speed. I would not be doing it.
It's hard to get on TikTok, especially live with the kids. Like, remember when you and I went live before, Amber? We had a plan it, right? We were like at 6 o'clock because we can't spur of the moment just hop on a live half the time. Kyle, you're the same way.
I know you got to go here like
Oh,
ASAP,
you're fine.
so.
I just seen one of my girl Jessica Evans. That's my girl Jess.
Oh, that's awesome.
If you guys ever get like the clout and the famous like podcast going on, get Theo Vaughn, please. I want to see him. I love Theo Vaughn, and he's the
I would love to get Theo on. I would love to be on Theo's podcast.
Yes.
We might need you to scout out people for us.
I'll be like, listen, Theo.
Yeah, you need to get the hookup for us.
He's hilarious.
Theo, I don't know if I could hold I would love to just pick his brain. I don't even know if the first time I would want to be on camera because he is so much sometimes and he comes out with the craziest shit. So I would probably lose my mind the first time I talk to him.
They were like, what's your favorite kind of weed? He was like, cocaine. I love him. Yes, I just want to thank everybody before I do gotta go. I have an appointment at 3, but Penny, Prince, you guys have all been super sweet, and then of course Kyle. It was awesome to get to know you, and Marie. I love you as always. Thank you guys.
Thank
you guys
you.
have a blessed day and recovery.
Thank you for coming on.
Hi, Megan. Thank you.
Bye.
So I'm going to close it out. Thank you for everybody that joined, subscribed, gifted, all of it. You guys are awesome, and we'll see you next time.